Hello and welcome to From Wayne to Wonder. My name is Kyle, guys, your host. Welcome to Project Potter. Thanks for checking out the channel. This is a new series we're doing, guys. This is every live-action Batman in review. We got the Batman backdrop here. It's going to be similar to our other review series, guys. We're going to have a recap, which is going to be kind of the meat of it. We're probably going to have a strongest character and a weakest character. We're going to do a score, and then we're going to do an overall rankings. We are doing every theatrical Batman or every live action Batman. I'm not doing like the animated Batman, so not the animated series. I'm not doing Lego Batman, but we are doing kind of the big main Batman movies here. And today, guys, we're kicking it off with the kind of the first main Batman story, the movie that kind of saved Batman, and something that I have not seen before, which is the 1966 Adam West Batman. This one, tonally, I think is way different than anything else we're going to see in the series. So it was a bit jarring, but it was a journey. But I'm going to kind of go through my thoughts here, guys, the recap. We got our Batman get-up gear here. No drunk night tonight, but we'll see if the drunk night returns sometime soon. So with that being said, guys, we're going to kick off with the recap here. So this movie kicks off, guys. You see like the old 20th Century Fox. Again, this was made in 1966. So this is kind of like way before anything we know now. At least I know now. This movie came out like almost 30 years before I was born. So yeah, pretty much 2 lifetimes for me. But there's an acknowledgement, guys. There's like a spotlight. This movie loves playing with color. So I did really like that, how it's like got high in the purple, it's got the bright yellow, it's got the different shades there. But there's a spotlight that goes on the brick wall here, guys, and there's an acknowledgement. I want to read here. I'll just go ahead and pull this over here. Actually, we'll probably be using this a lot, so because there was a lot going on in this movie. So yeah, the acknowledgement, guys, on the wall, it says, "We wish to express our gratitude to the enemies of crime and crusaders against crime throughout the world for their inspirational example. To them, and to lovers of adventure, lovers of pure escapism, lovers of unadulterated entertainment, lovers of the ridiculous and the bizarre, to fun lovers everywhere, this picture is respectfully dedicated." And then there's like a cut to like a couple making out there, and then it says, "If we have overlooked any sizable groupings of lovers, we apologize, from the producers." So this movie knows exactly what it is. It knows it's ridiculous. It knows it's campy. It knows it's bizarre, and it just like digs into that. And that's what I respect about this movie. It's not trying to be something that's not. It's 100% like, this is our style. This is the character, and this is what Batman was at the time. We didn't have the Dark Knights of the world. We didn't have any of the serious Batman, the gritty Batman. Like, this is what Batman was. Batman was fun and goofy, and he was a hero, but he was kind of like, you're going to be in for some type of adventure here. So kind of going through here, guys. So Batman and Robin, they pull up to Wayne Manor. Batman's like in his kind of Corvette here, but they're like in a hurry right away. Like, it just kind of kicks off where they run in there. There's like the gardeners outside, and they're like waving to the gardeners. But they run in there. We find out that they're going down to the Batcave, and of course, they like go through a side door in Wayne Manor. There's like a statue head that they open up, and there's a button or a lever or a switch that Batman pulls, and then there's like a secret bookshelf that goes over, and it says like "Bat Pole to the Batcave," like just straight up in letters, and it's like, we're not trying to be secretive. I mean, they are, I guess, because it's a secret entrance, but they're like, yeah, man, this is what's happening. If someone were to find the statue and pull the lever, they would be like, yeah, here's the Batcave right here, and that's just what this movie is. So it's goofy, like I said. So they go down the pole. As they go down there, there's a lever that says "instant costume change," and so that's like a good bit there. And he hits the lever, and then when they're coming down, so there's basically 3 shots. It's them on the pole, them in the middle going down, and then them when they arrive at the Batcave. And again, this isn't the dark, broody Batcave that we see in like Batman Begins with the bats flying around and the waterfall and stuff. This is just like very much a laboratory in like someone's basement. Or in this case, the Wayne Manor basement. So they get down there, Batman and Robin, and then every time they come down here, especially in the opening scene, they're just going to the Batmobile. So they're taking all these steps. They're pulling up in a car to go down a pole to get into another car. And I was like, this seems like a lot of work. I feel like there should be an easier way to do this. But they get in the Batmobile. This movie is like really pushing like the red for Batman, and we never see Batman with red. So it was interesting that like early Batman, they were like, oh yeah, here's the Batmobile, and it's like gonna be the black kind of classic design, but there's gonna be a red stripe on it. This Batmobile is a little badass though. It's got like a flame kicking out of it. But what surprised me is that when they go out of the Batcave, it's on like a side street or like a mountain pass, but it's like a blind drive, and it's like it's all overgrown and shit. And they pull out, it's like a dangerous split onto the road, and I'm like, you think the back, like it would be like a straightaway, or like it would have them come in there, but like they have to like turn, and then they have to like, I mean, Batman I hope is checking for traffic like both ways, dude, because you're gonna get T-boned, I should say. I was like, wow, this is a very dangerous intersection here. Like I don't know what they're doing, but 1966, maybe they didn't know as much about secret layers and locations, so they hop in the Batmobile, and then they immediately reveal the Batcopter. And I'm like, dude, there's already so many vehicles in this movie. I'm like, this movie is already outrageous. Again, they're pushing the red. It's like the Bat logo and like the red on the front there. And yeah, they're just like, they get in the Batcopter and they go around, and then there's like a shot where, you know, they're flying over, and there's like a roof with like a bunch of lingerie models, and they're like waving, and I'm like, what? I don't know what's happening there, dude. But Batman needs to chill out with that yacht and go hang out there, especially being a bachelor. You know what I mean? Like, Batman, get on that. Robin's like waving, and they're like, Robin, we don't want you, dude. We're waving. It's not called the Robin Copter, okay? It's called the Batcopter. So, but they keep going. There's like policemen who are like saluting there, and like, I know he's doing his job up there, and it's like, it's a cheesy line, but they go up there. Eventually they get down, or they arrive to the yacht, and the yacht's speeding away, or in the water, or whatever. And they're like, okay, we got to go down there, and they're like, oh, release the Bat Ladder, and I'm like, the Bat Ladder, dude? You mean the ladder that you just put Bat Ladder on the bottom of it? So, you know, they go down there. Batman like climbs down, and Robin takes over, and they're trying to get closer and closer to the yacht. Batman tells Robin to, he takes out like a walkie-talkie because he doesn't have like the gadgets yet, so he has to like literally reach in his pocket and take out a walkie-talkie even though Robin's above him. And he tells Robin to back off the power and increase the sync rate. I don't know what that means, but it sure sounded pretty cool. So I was like, you know what, dude? I think Batman knows what he's doing. But he's like, easy, Robin. Like, cut me some slack here, dude. But Robin just sucks, and he puts him right down into a shark. Like, he lowers him way too far, and then Batman comes up, and there's just a shark waiting for him. And it's like biting him. And I'm like, okay, there's a shark in there now? And just gets like his whole leg, and Batman's like, don't worry, dude. He's like, I don't have any armor on. I just have a suit on, but it's like, it's all good because that shark is not going to get me. You know, this is like a famous movie or an infamous movie now, and there's some scenes in here that maybe don't hold up as much, but it was ridiculous, and I kind of, you know, you can see the movie for what it is. Like, oh, I need the shark repellent. Give me the shark repellent. And like why he has shark repellent, I don't know. But Robin like puts the helicopter on autopilot. And then he like goes down halfway down the ladder, and then for no reason, hangs upside down. He like goes to meet Batman, and instead of just keep going down and handing him the shark repellent, he goes down there, puts his legs on the ladder, and then just like hangs upside down, and then like takes things out of his pocket. I'm like, Robin, what are you doing, my dude? Like so then Batman's here, and Robin's like upside down, and it's just a mess, and I had no idea what was going on there. I was like, you're making this way more difficult than it needs to be, Robin. So maybe not such a boy wonder after all, you know what I mean? Time to be a man wonder. Batman sprays this fake-ass shark with this repellent, and then it hits the water and it explodes. And I'm like, dude, that's some effective repellent right there, but you better be careful when you're spraying that. We get more into that later. So they go back to like PD, or they're doing like a press conference because they just like stop chasing the yacht. They like, for some reason, just like get the shark away, and then they just leave. Like, they just completely disregard the yacht that they went to go get. So I don't know what was going on there. But there's a woman who comes up. She's like a Russian woman. She's wearing like a full cheetah outfit, and she has a really crazy name that I didn't bother writing down. But I'm like, yeah, this Russian thought is coming over here, dude. And she's like, Batman, you take off your mask. And he's like, they're like, take off the mask. So like, that would reveal my true identity. They're like, no, man. Batman does not take off his mask, okay? They're like, they're fully, they say that they're like fully deputized, and they're like, I don't know what your deal is, but that's not going to happen. So Batman and Robin, they're kind of planning their next steps, and they're like, oh, let's turn on the TV to see what are the known super criminals that are not in prison. And that's just like available information, apparently. And so they say, okay, you want to know who's a super criminal that's not in prison right now? They're like, Penguin. And they're like, the Penguin, Joker, the Riddler, and Catwoman. And I was like, Catwoman is a super criminal? And I'm like, I guess back here they didn't. Catwoman is like always kind of playing with Batman, and you know, she works with him and she flirts with him, and she's kind of like, they're always kind of like have a thing for each other. But in this, and they play with that too in this one, but like in this one she is like a super criminal, so she's just a master thief like she always is. But she's like on this list, and I was like, okay, Penguin, Joker, Riddler, that makes sense. And then Catwoman, I was like, I don't know if Catwoman should be in there. You would have seen like Dr. Freeze or something, I think would have been better, but, or Mr. Freeze, I should say, not Dr. Freeze, sorry. I promise I know a little bit about Batman. The overacting in this scene as well, guys, especially from the Irish policeman, just outrageous. I mean, they're like, which one of them kidnapped the yacht or kidnapped the captain of the yacht? They're like, it could have been this, it could have been this. They're like, or it could have been all of them. And they're like, and the guy's like, he just like cannot believe it. Like that they possibly could do that, so that they're teaming up. It's crazy. So we see that Russian woman again, and she goes into Ye Old Benbow Tavern, and this is just like a local pub, but it's like a fight club, dude. She walks in and literally everyone's fighting, and I'm like, what's happening here? Like there's no rhyme or reason for any of these. I guess they're all just like a bunch of alcoholics, so it's like really stereotypical, but all of them are just fighting each other. And I was like, the first rule about Ye Old Benbow Tavern is you don't talk about Ye Old Benbow Tavern. But all of the supervillains are just hanging out in like the back room, apparently, of this bar. So she goes in there, and it's actually, we find out this is Catwoman, and you know, she just like drops her cat. She just like throws her fucking cat down. Like she just like throws it like that. And then the cat is like terrified. There's like a shot of the cat literally like looking around. Like it's not even like hissing at them or anything. And I was like, dude, what's happening in this movie? And so like the Joker, Penguin, and Riddler are all just like terrified of this like house cat that's not even like attacking them. They're just like, oh, slay the beast. And they're like literally cowering in fear. And I'm like, dude, this movie, man, I'm like out of words. And then there's a line where Catwoman says, perfectly, and she says it not once, but she says it twice. So the writers were like, we're going to put this line in? No, that wasn't good enough. Say it twice in this scene. And I was like, okay. And then it comes back into play later on as well. So, perfectly, and she says perfectly, at least 3 times in this movie, which is at least 3 too many times. So, that was something else. The whole scene and like all of the villain shots, they're at like a side angle, like the camera's tilted. Very off-putting. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on here. All the rest of the movie is fine, and then like the villains are just like at a side angle, and you're like, am I supposed to be like questioning these motives? Like I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. So just going back to the Batcave here, guys, because Robin and Batman just go back there because that's what they do. They go to a scene, they investigate it, and then they just leave. This happens a lot in this movie. I don't know what they like. Just give up on their mission. It makes no sense. But I think it's funny because every single thing in the Batcave is labeled, like very clearly labeled, and they kind of play on that later on towards the end of the movie. But Batman and Robin believe that the yacht that they saw was just an illusion, like a mirage. How they figure this out, I have no idea because they don't even allude to like bumping into it or anything or not being able to see it. Batman's just like, you know what? That yacht earlier, I think that was an illusion. And it's like, according to what, dude? According to what, Batman? Give me some more evidence, bro. He types into some data into the navigational aid computer, which I was like, because of course, dude. And then, they go down there. They eventually go to get back in the Batmobile. And then they go to the Bat boat. And how do they get to the Bat boat? They show up at the docks, and then there's a pole. And I'm like, why is there a pole to slide down everywhere? Why is there a huge pole at the docks that they park, they get on the pole, and then they slide down? And I'm like, I don't understand why this is in the world. And again, why there's just a Batman boat tied up to a dock, and you think someone would like vandalize it or something. Nope, it's just a Batman boat just sitting there. He's like, in case we ever need to get on the water, I'm gonna leave this baby like here. Doesn't have to like warm up the engine, just hops in there and they're ready to go. Batman tells Robin to look out for suspicious vessels. I was like, I don't even know how you would do that. So that's a tall task for the Boy Wonder. But we cut down to now they're in a submarine. We find out it's Penguin submarine, and everyone's saying like yo ho, and I'm like, don't know why that's happening. Joker is like talking to him, and Penguin tells him like, listen Joker, at land you may command, but at sea it is me. And I'm like, when did Penguin become a sea captain? Because he's never been that. Usually when we see Penguin, he's on the he's on land and he's hobbling around. He can barely walk. So maybe because his faults at land, he didn't decide to take it underwater. I don't know, but he's like suddenly a sea captain, and all of his he's got his own sub. Why does he have a sub, dude? That's so expensive. Where did you? I don't know. I know he's rich, so we're not going to question. We like forget everything you know for this movie because I don't even know where to begin or where to start or where to end but I don't know, guys. I'm speechless. Batman and Robin show up. They go to investigate the illusion buoy, and they find an underwater shark cage, and so that explains why the shark was waiting there. And he's like, "Aha! They set the shark on us." And he's like, "Oh, and they also like put dynamite on it." And somehow he finds it out because they must have been inside the shark. Because when the shark bit Batman in the leg, there wasn't dynamite strapped to it. Because Batman didn't notice that. But now he finds out, oh, I came pretty close to blowing up. That's why it blew up when it hit the water. So that's just, again, another thing. You know, there's a periscope that they're using, and it's a big-ass penguin head. And they're like, oh, they get spotted. And I'm like, well, of course you get spotted, dude. There's no cover. Like, you have the most obvious head. It's like a giant penguin head. And, you know, they don't even disguise it. It's just a penguin head. So Batman's like, oh, it's fucking Penguin. He's got a sub. But then he says, activate the magnet that I installed in that buoy. Why did you put a magnet in the buoy? I don't understand. So he activates the Penguin magnet, and Batman and Robin are like sucked to the back, and they're like, oh no, I'm like, and they're trapped there. So then there's this whole thing where, you know, the Riddler makes me uncomfortable in this movie, and not in a good way. He's got like an outfit. I like his performance actually, but just like, the way the periscope is like basically most of the movie in the sub, and they're all looking at it and they all have their own kind of thing to look through, and just the way the Riddler is standing, he's going like spread eagle on it basically, and I just doesn't make me feel comfortable. I don't know, the Riddler, I don't know what he's up to, what the real riddle is, but it's not good. So, like, half of the movie is, like, them sending up missiles, and, like, the first one they send up, like, explodes, and it's just, like, a riddle, which makes no sense there. But they're throwing torpedoes at Batman and Robin because they're stuck to the magnet, so they're like, all right, fire number one, and they're like, fire number one, and he presses it, and then the torpedo goes out, and Batman has, like, a scrambler, and he's like, oh, you know, I can use this reverse polarizer, and so he, like, negates the first two missiles to go there, but then the batteries die for the third missile. Like, the third missile's coming at Batman, and he goes to use the polarizer, and he's like, oh, the batteries are dead. And I'm like, you didn't have any other batteries? Your name is Batman, and you didn't have batteries for a very powerful device that you think you would have charged at all times, or at least a spare set in your utility belt. Dude, you have a utility belt. You throw some double A's in there, my man. What are you doing? What are you doing, Batman? Also, why is the Joker in charge of firing the torpedoes? It's not the Joker's ship. It's Penguin's ship. And he's like, fire torpedoes, and Joker's like, all right, and he like presses the button, and I'm like, how did you even know where that was? Did you get trained on it? I don't know. So, this is actually the first time the movie made me laugh, though, because the third missile's going at them, Batman's batteries die, and it turns out, like, they think they're dead, and they look in the periscope. We see Batman and Robin speeding away, and we're like, oh, what happened? And then they're like, wow, Batman, that was so lucky that the porpoise jumped in front of the missile for you. And they're like, yeah, so a porpoise just, like, sacrificed himself to get exploded by a missile or torpedo, so... yeah, that's what's happening. So the first Riddler missile goes up into the air. It says, what does a turkey do when he flies upside down? What weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree? And I'm like, what? they're just not even good riddles. They're just dumb. There's like an unnecessary shot. Batman and Robin get back to the Batmobile. Just an unnecessary shot of Batman and Robin putting on their seatbelts. Like they get in there and then the camera just focuses in and they're like, click. And I'm like, I think we assumed that they would have put their seatbelts on when getting in the Batmobile. I feel like I'm being very nitpicky for this movie, but there was just so much going on that I couldn't believe in this movie that I was like, man, I have a lot to talk about for this one. And so, they're finding out, they like solve the riddle. They're like, oh, the answer is he gobbles up and a sparrow with a machine gun. And I'm like, how the hell did you figure that one out, Robin? It's like Rain Man over here, dude. It's like, dude, maybe Robin needs a promotion, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, it must be our own arch enemy. And he goes, Catwoman. And it was like, wow, is that Christopher Walken or Adam West? And he's like, watch out for Catwoman. Wow. And then they determine that their minimum objective, he goes, oh, well, 3 of them working together, that's fine. But a fourth one working together, he's like, their minimum objective must be world domination. And I was like, because there's a fourth person? I'm like, okay, I don't know how you tip the scales so much there, but that's okay. The villains are finally working together. I actually do really like the guy who plays Riddler, Frank Gorshin. He's kind of like crazy and like all over the place, so I liked his performance there. Why did the Joker have a mustache in this movie? No idea. It's like the Joker paint, and it actually looks pretty decent. And then there's just like they zoom in on his face, and it's just like like a regular mustache above his clown paint. And I'm like, you couldn't have omitted that. You couldn't have omitted that. Maybe it was a creative design choice, but that's their Joker. It's weird. Again, we hadn't seen the Heath Ledgers and the Joaquin Phoenixes, so this is like the first Joker. It was so goofy, so I totally understand, but it was still a strange choice because I know in the comics that they don't put big ass mustache on a Joker, so I don't know where that came from. We then get Miss Kitka hitting on Wayne, who we know is Catwoman, because their whole plan is like, oh, well, Miss Kitka's going to go undercover and seduce Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is going to come in here, and like the villains, I don't think they know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but they're going after Bruce Wayne. So I was like, why would you just pick Bruce Wayne to go after it? I don't know. Didn't make a lot of sense there. There's no explanation of how Kitka gets with Bruce Wayne or gets into his mansion. They're just suddenly like, she's just talking to him. He doesn't say like, oh, who are you? Like, they met one time at the press conference. He thought she was hot, and she's like, oh, by the way, she doesn't contact Alfred. She's just in his house, and they're just talking about it. And it's just like, I don't know how that happened. And then she says perfectly, and Batman does not pick up on it. And I'm like, dude, where is the world's greatest detective? Where is the Batman I know? She says perfectly, Catwoman's signature phrase, and you don't pick up on that? Batman, bro, you gotta play some brain games or something, because you're missing out. There's another ridiculous riddle that involves a Russian slipping on a banana, and they're like, it must be Miss Kitka. And then they say, somehow Miss Kitka discovered the villain's plan, and I'm like, she had a very specific Riddler riddle, and you don't understand that she's working with them? Where is the world's greatest detective, I ask you? Bruce goes out with Kitka because, well, Lee Merriweather, who plays Kitka, is looking good. So I don't blame Bruce here. But he's like, I'm going to take Miss Kitka out for a night out of town. He's like, I must take her to dinner because he's like, I'm trying to get that ass. And, Alfred and Robin are cruising the Batmobile. They're like kind of babysitting him. Robin calls police headquarters. He's like, yo, put up the bat signal. They're kind of watching. They're like, why are they still in the town square? It's been an hour. And Robin's like, well, I don't want to kiss and tell. He's like, let's just say there's no criminal activity going on. And they're like, oh. Police officer's like, yo, I got it. Yeah, Kitka has like a little mini black cat that she takes out. So she's like they're like, they're close together and they're like nose kissing, and it looks like they're going to kiss at any moment. And then like, she's like, oh, close your eyes. And then she takes out a little mini cat, a black cat, and she clicks it. She holds it down by her legs and she clicks it, and it just sends out like Morse code. Just sends out Morse code, and she just knows how to do Morse code. And Bruce Wayne does not notice any of this, and he keeps his eyes closed, but you think he would hear the clicking or something, or even just like open his eyes for a second. Has no idea. So she just literally like sends a full message while that's happening. So I don't know what this Bruce is doing. So Alfred and Robin are cruising around in the Batmobile, and I gotta say, guys, Alfred looks like the fucking burglar, dude. I mean, oh my god. Like, he's got this mask on, and everyone's gonna be like, bro, if you're driving around in the Batmobile, we know it's Alfred. The mask isn't saving you, dude. You're driving around in a Batmobile. The Batmobile of Batman. We're gonna figure out that you're Alfred, and then we're gonna figure out it's Bruce Wayne. Doesn't make any sense, but yeah, he looks like the Hamburglar dude. There's like a really awkward kiss between Bruce and Kitka, and then Robin's like, okay, we gotta turn it off because apparently apparently Robin has never watched porn with Alfred because he's like, I can't watch this. And they're like, some things are discretionary. He's like, some things need to be kept private, even for superheroes. And Alfred's like, okay, dude, well, this is gonna cause a conundrum now, so. Kitka slips into something more comfortable. Bruce gives like this weird speech where he's like reciting poetry or whatever. It's like Adam West being weird shit, but that's what this Batman is. All of the super villains come in through the window after they ride Hagrid style to this place, dude. And they just get on huge brooms or umbrellas that are like provided by Penguin. First he's got a submarine, and now he has flying umbrellas, dude, and they all just get on there. There's no safety harness, and it's like the flying brooms, dude. It's like the beginning of Harry Potter, where they all just come on in. And they all jump through the window, and like none of them are surprised that Bruce is chilling here. So they either know that Bruce is Batman already and no one else knows, or I don't know. I don't think anyone knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but that whole plan was just weird. But they take her, they kidnap him. The newspaper line reads, Bruce Wayne and girl companion kidnapped. And it was like, that's the best you could come up with, dude? Girl companion? at least say girlfriend or something, dude. Like, man, come up with a better headline, newspaper. Bruce wakes up, he asks what happened to Miss Kitka, and he can't tell that it's just fucking Catwoman, and it's like she has the smallest mask on and sounds exactly like Miss Kitka. Well, I guess not, because she has the accent, but still. He was just with Miss Kitka. He wakes up. They're in the same place as the supervillains, and he doesn't like recognize that they're the same person. Again, this Batman sucks as a detective. I don't know what Bruce is doing in this movie. He runs at them like a bull, which is a super weird move, and he's like, I'm going to break down this whole place if you don't tell me where Miss Kitka is. And I'm like, you don't even know this girl, dude. So he's like, I demand to see Miss Kitka. They're like, all right, we'll bring you to her. They put a blindfold on him, and then literally Catwoman obviously changes into like Miss Kitka's robe. There's like a scene where they bring him downstairs into like this weird ass bedroom, and then like she's like on the bed and she's like, Bruce, and then he's like, oh, Miss Kitka, are you okay? And it's like they literally like, it's not even downstairs. It's literally just like in the next room over, and like they close the door, and it's like, dude, this Bruce Wayne is getting played like a damn fiddle in this movie. Kitka's like, oh, I'm sure Batman and Robin will be here soon. And Bruce is like, nah, bro, that's not going to happen. And she's like, what? No, they must be coming. He's like, yeah, I got something to tell you. They bring him back upstairs. He breaks free. He like somehow gets out of the rope, even though there's no point. I think he says there's like something up his sleeve, but like Kitka doesn't help him get out of there or whatever because they go get him. Makes no sense. He breaks out. Kicks one of the bodyguards onto the spring box they were talking about, and he goes flying into the fucking ocean, dude. And then right into an exploding octopus, which they bring up. Joker apparently has an exploding octopus that he kept in the sea dormant, and then they just never use it. And then the random bodyguard extra goes flinging in there and blows up and dies. Bruce jumps out, and he has like this majestic dive into the sea, which apparently the octopus has exploded or is no longer a threat because he just gets in there and then swims back to like police headquarters. He tells them like, oh, I escaped with the help of Batman. And it's like, oh, police are like, oh, that's nice. I don't know where Batman was. And he's like, oh, that's because I am Batman, dude. Again, doesn't tell them that, but he's like, does that thinking meme there. So they escape back to the Batmobile. The villains reveal the total dehydrator. And yes, there is a weapon that takes out all of the moisture of the human body in this movie. And it, not only is it messed up, but it's just so bizarre. And it's just like, this is the main plot. So Penguin's like, oh, let me try this. It won't hurt at all. And there's like 5 dudes that come in. They're wearing like GP number 2 or whatever. They're like wearing really odd, like awkward shirts. And Penguin like zaps them and it turns them into these little dusts. And there's 5 of these guys. The first one gets evaporated into dust. None of the other guys react. Some dude just got turned into dust, and they don't even bat an eyelash, dude. They don't even go, oh shit. Like, they don't do anything. They don't react. They don't freak out. They don't try to run away. They just stand there, and they're like, they just like wait for their turn to be turned into dust, and it's like, doesn't make any sense. It's really weird. It turns them into dust. All the moisture goes into like a little vat in the thing. I don't even know what the point of this is, because I don't know why you want to turn people into water. It's so weird, dude. The Riddler and Penguin like get on the floor and they like stare at it like it's crack, and they're like, oh yes. They're like, yes, we must put it back into little vials individually. And they're just like on the ground, and they're like crack addicts. It's crazy. So Catwoman, he's like, Catwoman, go ahead and get a dustpan and put these in the little vials. And she brings over a fucking dustpan and broom. And she's just like using a little dustpan, and then she uses like a filter, like a cone, and she goes to put it back on the vial, and it shows it, and she just like spills like half of the shit on the floor. She's like missing half of it, and I'm like, dude, that's human DNA that you're dropping. And she's just like, well, most of it's in there. It's like, okay, that's like half of a person that you didn't just put in there. So again, this movie, I feel like I don't even know what's happening in this whole movie. Batman and Robin go to like climb the small wall that's over near that lair, and it's like very obviously a side shot where it's like, again, it was 1966, so I'll cut them some slack here, but they're like very clearly just like slowly going up the wall, and it's like they just turned the camera sideways and they're clearly on the wall. There's not even like remotely good special effects for this part. So they go back to see Miss Kitka, or Batman goes back in there. All the villains are gone, but there's a bomb in there. And then there's like Batman goes in there. He's like still looking for Miss Kitka like an idiot. And I'm like, dude, Miss Kitka is gone. You should know that by now. Like they're messing with you. So Batman takes the bomb. He's looking for a place to put the bomb. Brings the bomb downstairs to the bar and tells people to evacuate. Brings an active bomb to the people. And he's like, you should probably evacuate. And it's like, bro, is that a bomb? They start running around. And then there's just this sequence where Batman runs around with an active bomb everywhere. And I'm like, dude, worst bomb ever. Because it just does not go off. He brings it everywhere. He's running around. It's supposed to be like a funny little scene, but I was like, all right. There were a couple parts where I was like, this is ridiculous, but I get it. Like, you're going for ridiculous. But, you know, he's like, there's a huge bit of, like, ocean there, or open water, and he can just throw into it. And he goes to throw it over, and there's, like, a bunch of little ducks. And so he's like, oh, can't throw it there. He goes to throw it over. There's, like, a couple on the boat. They're like, oh, can't throw it there. Dude, you can chuck this thing, and it's just, there's so much open water, it's ridiculous. But he's, like, going around. Eventually, he finds, like, he throws it away, and then Robin comes over, and he's like, oh, Batman, you're okay. And he's like, oh, yeah, luckily there were a bunch of these iron pipes here that I was able to take shelter in. I was like, bro, you didn't even give him a good, like, way to escape. You just, they're like, oh, yeah, I just fell into, first of all, you don't want to fall on iron pipes, dude. That's going to knock you out or blow up, or that's going to be way more dangerous when it blows up. So I don't know. He just says, oh, some days you can't get rid of a bomb. And I'm like, is that supposed to be funny, Batman? Robin's like, why did you even save those people? And he goes, Robin, they may be drinkers, but they're still human beings. And I was like, that's the smartest thing you've said all day, Batman. Don't judge someone for drinking. And Robin, just because you're like 5 years old, dude, you'll get there one day. Don't judge people because they got to hit the bar, you know, because they have a tough life at home. Batman saves everyone, okay? So Robin, suck it. So Penguin comes up with just a horrible disguise. Just a horrendous, like, he's supposed to be like a sea captain, and Batman and Robin immediately are like, dude, you're Penguin. Because he still laughs like Penguin. They're like, oh, dude, that's the Penguin's laugh. Like, we know that 100%. And they're like, okay, well, we need to find out, like, what he's up to. So they're like, oh, sir, would you like to come back to, like, the lab to, like, see... I don't even know why they get him to the Batcave, but he's like, yeah, that's fine. And they're like, oh, this might be the break that we need. And I'm like, I don't know why you're voluntarily bringing Penguin into the Batcave, but obviously it's not going to end well for you. So he's like, oh, well, you know, we just need to, like, give you this gas. So Batman just roofies Penguin straight up. He's like, yo, I need to knock you out with this gas, and then you can come into our lair. And he's like, okay. Obviously, Penguin never, like, learned to stay away from strangers, because he just if there was a van with candy, dude, he would jump right in that bitch. Like, he would go right in there. So Penguin gets in there, he gets knocked out. They literally bring him into the lab. He goes back up and he's like, oh, I'm very thirsty. Can I have some water? And they're like, yeah, of course. The drinking water dispenser is clearly marked. And I'm like, he's not wrong, dude, because he goes over and it's just like drinking water dispenser. And it turns out Penguin had like 5 fucking vials in his pants, dude. He takes out this huge, like, almost clown-like thing of vials that didn't spill or anything. And he like puts it behind the machine, but Batman and Robin just don't notice this at all. Again, dude, where is the world's greatest detective? In your own lair. This Batman is so different than the one we know. He basically connects them, and he accidentally hits like the lighter the heavy water, he hits heavy, and then the 5 guys get rehydrated and they pop back in, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta fight these guys. And then it turns out like that they just pop immediately when they run into anything. And Batman says, like, you know, it left them highly unstable, it was on heavy water, and he said they all popped into antimatter. And Robin's like, antimatter? He's like, does that mean? And he's like, yes, Robin, they're fucking dead. He's like, deal with it, dude. He's like, you know what, Robin? They're fucking dead. That's right, dude. Dead. He's like, they're not coming back to this universe. And Robin's like, and he's like, deal with it, boy. Penguin's clinging to the ladder like a sociopath, like just like clinging to it. And I guess he is a sociopath, so that actually adds up for his character. That checks out. But, you know, he agrees to get roofied again. He's like, okay, I guess we can leave now. Like, and so they hit him with the gas again. They're going on the Batmobile, and their car like breaks down. He pulls over, and then he's like, oh, let me get out and check. And then Penguin's like, wild card, bitches, because Penguin's got poisonous gas in his umbrella that he didn't use until now. So he knocks out Batman and Robin, and then takes their car and he goes away. But it turns out that Batman and Robin took an anti-penguin gas pill. What? How are you prepared for that, dude? So they take a pill right before, and he's like, oh, good thing we took that anti-gas pill. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they happen to stop by right at the point where they have a hidden motorcycle covered in like bushes. And he's like, oh, luckily our bat bike is right here. And I'm like, of course, dude. So they get on the bat bike and they start chasing Penguin. And there's just so many vehicles, dude. The bat bike and the sidecar. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. They disengage at the very end. They go to the Batcopter. So we're back on the Batcopter. Riddler sends up another missile, and it actually hits the Batcopter this time. And he's like, I got them. And then it's like, oh, we're going down. They eventually land on the foam rubber wholesalers convention, a huge pile of foam rubber. So that was kind of funny because he's like, oh, you know, Robin, even the worst gambler, like the odds of that happening, of us landing on the foam rubber are like, you know, astronomical. So he's like, even the worst gambler is probably like, would be jealous of that ending there. So I don't know, that was kind of like, that was where I was like, all right, this movie is just outrageous. So I guess that's a fun little part. And he says, okay, Robin says, let's get a taxi. He goes, no, Robin, not at this time of day. It'll be faster if we run. What? It'll be faster if you run than getting a taxi? So the sub finally docks. You know, Riddler and Catwoman, they bring the dehydrator to the United World building, and Catwoman puts her cat down again, just kind of like drops her cat. She says, seek out the weak spot. The cat just runs into the door. And they're like, ah, perfect. Bro, the cat didn't do anything. The cat literally like hit the door, and they were like, that couldn't have done that without Catwoman's cat. And so they like blow over the door. And, you know, Penguin poisons a bunch of people where he's just running around. He's like, hey, and he's poisoning people. They go into the meeting with the world powers or the world building, whatever it is, all the like United Nations meeting or whatever. And there's like a super racist scene where there's just like very poor accents that are not even remotely accurate that are going on. But everyone is like kind of fighting. It's like the US and Israel and France, and everyone's just screaming at each other and they have no idea what's going on. The supervillains come in and no one like reacts to the supervillains just come in there because they're too busy arguing. They all get dehydrated, and then literally as they're getting dehydrated one by one, the people next to them once again not reacting. And I was like, my God, dude, this is just a little too insane for my liking. Batman and Robin show up to the world building, and you know there's like the up and down elevator, and there's a bunch of different languages, and it says up at the right, and Batman goes, up. Bro, it said up at the far right. You couldn't, this Batman is an idiot, dude. I don't know what, this is a dumbass Batman that we're dealing with. And I know Adam West's Batman is supposed to be kind of dumb, so I'm probably being very critical of this movie, but this is just not my cup of tea for Batman. They're still giving Batman like the take another step and Miss Kitka dies, and Batman still can't figure out that she is Miss Kitka. It's like, the guy just has no clue. They escape back to the sub because of course they do, and it's just funny because like Catwoman puts the cat down and that cat just fucking hates her. Like every scene that she puts the cat down, the cat immediately is jumping off screen or jumping away or running away. So they couldn't even get like a loyal cat to stay there, like a friendly cat. It's just like this cat hates her, and I'm sure it hated all the scenes that the cat is in. It's like terrified looking at the other people, and it's like, man, get a more relaxed cat at least. Like, come on, be better, man. And Robin haul ass back to the speedboat, and there's just more missiles fired because they have like 1 million missiles on the sub apparently. Also, they're just getting in and out of sub with ease, and like getting in there and putting it back underwater. So I don't know how much time is passing, but the villains are going in and out of the sub like it's nothing. So Robin's able to like jam the homing missiles, and dude, half of this movie is just them firing missiles and then negating the missiles. And I'm just like, you got to come up with a better plan, man. Instead of just sending missiles every time and it not working every time. Everyone on the sub just says yo-ho all the time, and it's just the worst. I don't understand why they're doing that. They're not pirates. They're just on the sub. Also, Joker is just the worst, dude. He's useless. He just repeats everything the Penguin's saying. Penguin's like, fire the missiles, and he's like, fire the missiles. And it's like, did you need to repeat it, Joker? This is not the Joker we know. A lot of these characters are not what we know. I'm glad that we evolved from this. Sub eventually surfaces. Batman throws the cat onto the raft. There's like a ridiculous battle where there's like a sword fight between Batman and Penguin. Catwoman awkwardly falls and then just like waits for Batman to find her inside, and her mask is off, and it's like, Miss Kitka, and they're like, holy heartbreak, Batman. And it's like, Batman didn't know this girl, dude. They didn't even hook up. I don't think they kissed. Like, he knew her for one night, but you know, he calls her like angelic before, and he thinks like she's the woman of his dreams and stuff. So I get it, but Batman fell hard. Dude, you got to give it some more time. Batman, don't be so clingy. Maybe focus on your detective a little bit more, my guy, okay? And so Batman finds out it's Kitka, and then he just stares into the camera for way too fucking long. Like, no dialogue, he just stares. And I like had to check to see if like my stream had paused, because Batman was just staring and saying nothing. And I was just like, did the stream cut out? Like, Batman somehow knows how to use a communicator on the sub, which makes no sense. But the captain just runs. So they save the world leaders who are all in these vials, right? And it's like, it's swaying the whole time they're fighting, and somehow never crashes to the ground. I'm like, oh, it's all good. And then Batman's like, cool, we got it. And then the captain wakes up, the real captain, and he's like, what is this, a costume party? And just runs into Batman and fucking knocks it over and just basically killed everyone. Like all of the world leaders. And then Batman sneezes and the dust goes everywhere. But don't worry, guys, because Batman has a dust separator. What? Why do you have that, dude? Why do you have a dust separator? You did not know before this mission that you were going to have to do that. So the PD is calling Batman and like, Batman, is there hope? And Batman goes, there's always hope. You should know that. He's like, obviously, dude, I'm fucking Batman. Of course there's hope. Robin's like, don't you think we should try and improve the world before putting them back together? And he's like, Robin, don't ever fucking speak to me again. He's like, nah, dude, it's not up to mortals like us to tamper with Mother Nature. And I was like, okay, that's a fair point, Batman. That's probably the smartest thing you've said all movie. So they're like, oh, separation accomplished, ready to rehydrate, and that's like put out across the world, and it's like all the different corners of the globe that are listening. And then they bring out the little vials back to the boardroom and set up the light, water, soft, and it's like all these little, it's like this just pump in the middle, and it's like all these little like hoses that go into the vials, and they set them up in their little chairs each time. And everyone's rehydrated, and they're arguing that nothing happened, and the world's like freaking out, and they're like, oh, they did it, and they're like, they're rehydrated, everyone's freaking out. But the minds were mixed up, and now they're all speaking different languages, and it's like the French people are speaking Spanish and all that, and so they're like, oh, it didn't work quite the way we thought. So the dust separator didn't do shit, apparently. Obviously didn't do its job, so Batman should probably go and destroy that machine because it's useless. But he says, you know, the mixing of the minds may be a blessing in disguise. And then he goes, our job is finished. Batman's like, you know what, dude? Close enough. Peace out. And how does the movie end? With Batman and Robin sliding down a pole that is like fucking 70 stories up, dude. And I'm like, why does this exist? And that is the end of the movie. Okay, guys, so for this one, for my strongest character, this one has got to go. I think it's going to go to Catwoman because she was the most interesting character, I think. Batman was just super dumb in this movie. And Robin even was like, okay, but most movies you would say Batman is like smart and figuring everything out and kicking ass. It's a Batman movie. But dude, Catwoman was the best character, I think, in this movie. You know, she was super sexy. She was like a double agent. She played Batman a little bit. She played a couple different hats. She put on a couple different hats where she literally put on different hats, but also like she, you know, had to seduce Bruce Wayne, and she was kind of like the one getting mad at the rest of the crew because it was like this bozo crew, and she's like, no, we need to work together. And she was kind of like the glue to this whole thing, and I think she was really good in this, so I'm going to give her my strongest character. For the weakest character, 100% the Joker, dude. The Joker sucked in this movie. He didn't do anything. The Joker we know is like maniacal, and obviously Heath Ledger, when we get to that, it's like all-time performance, dude. But this Joker sucked. This Joker, I don't even know why he was involved, honestly. He had an exploding octopus, apparently, but they had a spring box, but then that worked on a double, like an extra that didn't even matter. And it's like, he was just in the sub and pressing buttons, and it's like, made no sense for him to be in this movie. I have no idea why he was even in this movie. He wasn't even like making jokes or anything. He was just like kind of like eccentric. And it's like, but we already had the Riddler for that, and the Riddler did a much better job. So why is Joker in this movie? I don't know. Useless. One of Batman's best villain, but like they just smushed all these villains together, and then they didn't give them like a proper story, and it's just a mess. So Joker was the weakest one out of all the villains for me, for sure. For a score for this one, guys, man, this was a rough watch. This was like an hour and 45 minutes, I have to be honest. I was checking the time quite often to see how much time was left, because I was just like, man, this is so different than all of the other Batman films that we're going to know. I 100%, I appreciate this movie for going out of its way to be ridiculous and goofy. And they say right at the beginning, I like that they are kind of fun and creative with it, where they say like, you know, you embrace the fun lovers who embrace the ridiculousness and embrace the craziness, like this is for you. And I'm like, okay, great. Like this Batman knows what it is. I know the Adam West Batman TV series is like crazy and goofy like this. I just prefer the Batman that's serious and gritty. And I mean, I grew up on the Dark Knight trilogy, so like for me, and even the Batman animated series is dark, and so like I love that Batman. This Batman is just like not the Batman. I know this is goofy Batman, but this is before all the seriousness. So this was in 1966. We have to take that into consideration. With that being said, I'm going to give it a 6.7. I even think that's maybe a high score. The plot is just outrageous, but because they kind of went in there knowing that this is a ridiculous movie. I mean, the scene where Batman's running around with the bomb, like, that's not supposed to be serious or a thriller. It's supposed to be goofy and silly. So even though I feel like I just ripped apart this movie for a bit here, I was just nitpicking because I had to review it, and it's just so different. But I do respect that it was kind of the first of its kind, and for that reason, I'm going to give it probably a higher score than I'd like to give it, but not a good movie or not a rewatchable movie, in my opinion, by any means, and definitely not something I'm ever going to be going back to. All right, guys, and then the Wayne rankings. This, of course, is the first one here. We're kicking it off from Wayne to Wonder, and so it's got to go number one by default, but I guarantee you that that will be bumped to number 2 with the next review. So by default, this will be the first and only time that the 1966 Batman will be number 1 in the rankings, because it is the only movie. There's no competition, but I am, spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you right now that that is going to change for next week. Okay, guys, well, that's it. That was for the episode, the pilot episode of From Wayne to Wonder, every live-action Batman review. So this is probably a little bit messy and a little choppy, but guys, this is the first one of the series. I'm still figuring out a little bit, so bear with me. But I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you got some joy out of me kind of ripping this movie apart and having my own thoughts on it. I hope I wasn't too negative on it. hopefully anyone that loves this Batman movie doesn't see this and hate this or give it a thumbs down or hate me. But you know, if you did, I'm sorry, but you know, I'm just here to give you my honest opinion of the movie and my thoughts and try to make it a little fun for you guys for these reviews and make these reviews different because I know there's going to be a lot of different reviews coming up there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining Project Potter. Thanks for checking out the content. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell notification. Go check out the other content we have, guys. Not just Batman here, but we do have Marvel, we have Mr. Robot, we have John Wick, we have Star Wars. We had a whole bunch of stuff there. So go check that out on the channel. I really do appreciate you guys stopping by. And until next time, guys, I'm Batman.